Hey, Crimson Dynamo, we're looking for a pick-a-nick-a-basket. Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh overview. Today, let's take a look at the Hasbro, this big old Marvel Legends wave here, the Ursa Major Build-A-Figure wave, which is essentially an Iron Man wave, from what I can tell. Darkstar and Ursa Major kind of veers away from what I think of Iron Man, but of course, in the past, Iron Man has battled the Winter Guard, so it kind of makes sense, but I can see how people are like, why are they sticking these mutants in my Iron Man wave? But to me, it's just biscuits under my gravy, because it's all good, it all works, it all goes in the Marvel Legends collection. And yeah, I've had these for a little while, they just kept getting pushed back. New stuff, new news, stuff happening, oh, it's crazy. But I thought, it's time to open these. I haven't played, it hasn't been a little bit since I've messed with the Marvel Legend. Okay, probably not that long, but long enough. In this wave, we're looking at Darkstar. Back here, hiding appropriately, is Stealth Iron Man. There's Ironheart, the Vault Guardsman. Oh, classic Ultron. Hologram Iron Man, must not lick translucent plastic. And then, of course, Modular Iron Man. On the side, artwork featuring each character. A lot of Darkstar cut out by the window, but then Stealth Iron Man, nice pictures. Ooh, scary. Don't recognize that. Hologrammy. I think I've seen that somewhere, though. On the back, larger pictures of that art with little bios telling you about the character. Moving down, there's the Ursa Major Build-A-Figure and what part comes with each piece. Each piece that comes with each part that comes with each piece. The Build-A-Bear part that comes with each figure. And then, of course, your attention, warning, small parts. You're not supposed to put them in your mouth. On the top, logos appropriate for each character. Iron Man, Riri, Iron Man, Ultron, Iron Man, Iron Man. Nothing on the top of Darkstar, though. Is there not a Winter Guard logo? On the bottom, as always, a bunch of legalese, these logos, barcode. But let's get these every time. And let's start off with Hologram Iron Man. Big surprise, right? Apparently I still have trouble with that. Pop! Look at the nifty design in the background. I am Iron Man, Iron Man. Now this is obviously reuse of one of the movie armors, but in my case, I didn't get a lot of those armors. So I can't remember if I skipped this one or if this is in a random box somewhere. But it's not like they're trying to hide the fact the sculpt is all still there. But it's in this oh so delicious blue translucent plastic. But not too clear. You can see some of the inner workings of the articulation in places, that ankle joint and the knees and the elbows. It's also kind of foggy to throw you off a bit. In fact, the arms look foggiest, and then there's the legs with a little bit of fog to them, and then really clear in the chest. And you lose the design of the armor itself because of the inner workings, but at the same time, it adds to that hologram type effect where you can kind of see through to the back. Even though you can't see the sculpted details, they came in with these white paint lines, and for some reason, I love it. I mean, the figure itself is a little bit older, so the engineering is a bit stiff in the articulation and the range and stuff, but this just standing in a hall of armor or something, or off to the side to assist, it's a nice diorama piece, I think. And always have them facing forward because they didn't put those lines on the back. They went to the Robo School of Painting, I guess. Overall, it does feel like a cheap repaint, but I got nothing against those, really, especially when it helps get new figures in the wave. Going over articulation, ball in the skull going to a hinge in the neck, can look up and look down, a little bit of tilt, swivel. Hinge at the shoulder comes up, but that shoulder pad is glued right in the way. I think I just popped it off the glue. Yeah, the peg came out. The pad stops the shoulder from coming up too far. Rotates around, swivel at the bicep, double elbow comes up slightly past 90. Swivel at the wrist, hinge in and out. And again, there's a piece of armor sculpted on the back, so you can get it up to here. Keep going. Ball mid-torso, not shabby. Not great, not shabby. Ball coming out to the hip, goes forward, back, out. Swivel at the thigh, hidden behind that armor. The blue couldn't be closer to my background. Double knee, not terrible. Hinge at the ankle goes back, goes forward. Is there a forward-facing pin? Yeah, it just kind of sticks to the bottom of the leg. For accessories in the package, Hologram comes with 2 repulsor hands, and those are made to accept these dark blue repulsor blasts. And the holes in the hand for those blasts are slightly angled forward, so you don't have to get the hand completely 90 with the forearm. That makes the blasts still look like they're shooting forward. And I guess these blasts would be holograms too, right? Would that hurt as much as real repulsors? But if you want the hologram in a flying pose, there's also holes in the ankles where you can put that. If you're not using the blasts in the hands, you can pop those out, and then there are fists that plug in. You pick a tough looking pose and I shouldn't like it as much as I do, but I do. Next up, let's take a look at one of my favorite Iron Man armors, Stealth Iron Man. Am I cutting the wrong direction? Oh, I am. It goes like this. Oh, whatever. Before we get too far into it, I've heard people talk about the white residue on top of their Stealth Iron Man, and I do have that in a couple of places. I don't know if it's mold release or something from the factory, but it seems to wipe right off. Of course, I don't know if I should be putting that on my bare hands. I don't know what it is. It only seems to be in certain parts. The top of the head on this darker blue, the arms, and the feet. Oh, I got a little red bleed right there too. Yeah, it seems to wipe right off. It reminds me of some Mattel figures. I said the M word. There it is around the boot cuff too. And another thing to get out of the way is that this is complete reuse of the 80th anniversary Iron Man. Same everything. This time around, we don't have to fix the arms. I think originally this had the biceps swapped. They came around and fixed that for this release too. On this one, the boot was backwards, which is an easy enough fix. It was turned around like this, and you flip the foot around. Yay! Stealth is the best out of all of them. Mostly because, like I said, I love this color scheme on an Iron Man armor. I know some people have problems with the swirly twirly plastic, but like I always say, I love the look of it. The way the light dances off of it, and the way reflections kind of show up here and there. Look right there. Oh, 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 oh. It wasn't until I got it out of the package that I realized that where it's usually yellow or gold, it's a lighter blackish blue than the armor pieces that are usually red. Just a slight color difference between the two. I guess you can see it the best with the faceplate and the top of the head. Just a slight contrast to make it even more interesting, because on top of that, you have the red on the chest, and then the red in the eyes and the mouth. And yeah, I know, Stealth in the comics has a slightly different armor. There's some shoulder pads, there's an angle to the glove and the boot cuffs, but there's also a long tradition of, well, Toy Biz and Hasbro making their stealth armors just a redeco of the base Iron Man body. And that's not excusing it. In fact, I would love to have those new pieces on here. Going over articulation, there is a ball at the top of the neck going down to a hinge. Up, down, some tilt. Swivel, shoulder hinges up past 90. Around, swivel at the bicep, kind of squeaky, needs some oil. Double elbow comes up past 90. Rotation at the wrist and hinge in and out. Hinge mid-torso, kicks forward, arcs back, cut at the waist. Ball coming out to the hip goes forward, back, out. Oh, he's winning the wave so far. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee, not quite. Swivel at the top of the boot. Hinge at the ankle goes back, forward, front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, Iron Man comes with 2 fists, but like most Marvel Legends figures, pop, pop. And you can plug in repulsor hands that do not have a hinge at the wrist, so they're in this position. It also comes with these red repulsor blasts. And I forgot to show on the hologram armor, if you don't like these little things or want to use just this, in case you want to put them down here or something, you can plug those in without the spread effect around it. Head pops off, and there's this alternate Tony Stark head. And I'm not quite sure if this is reuse or not. I do have this other Tony Stark head. Nope, that's definitely not reusing that one. And then we recently got this hologram. Nope, that's not it either. And if you want to take this over to an older Iron Man, it's the same body, same neck peg, so it should fit. Not bad at all, except for the blue. Next up, let's look at the Vault Guardsman. Cut the tape. I think there's glue there. Oh, wait. And it's a Guardsman. What else can I say? There is some new parts here, but the limbs are reuse from this older Captain America. Maybe they've reused that since then and gave us the new forearms and the boots, but this is the one that popped out at me first. And I say the torso's new because it has this sculpted line across here and then this V shape on the front. And then that carries around to the back too. Overall, everything looks to fit together. The base plastic is again marbleized, swirly twirly. You can see the flowing through here and on the chest and on the crotch and down on the boots. You get to the arms and the glove line, and then this strap around the bicep is actually painted on. Personal preference, I look at the colors and I wish they were a little bit deeper and darker and more of a metallic flavor, but this is also very, very comic booky. So I'm fighting against my own preferences, or well, this is winning me over, I guess you could say. And then we get up to the head. It is new too, and so undeniably Guardsman. In fact, you see the eye sculpt, and you would think that the whole thing would be one piece, but the darker green is actually a helmet type piece that is laid over the face. But I still can't help seeing it as a pair of underwear on his head. And now you see that too, right? Looks like a crotch piece. But again, that is the design of the Guardsman, so I can't fault it. And that's my own little, oh, well, that's kind of weird. Perfect world, this strap and the top of the glove would be sculpted on, but again, because of reuse, they have to fit it in where they can. Articulation, there's a ball at the top of the neck, hinge under that. Looks up, down, not a lot of tilt. Swivel, hinge at the shoulder, 90, rotates all the way around. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow, I had to push it a little bit. Oh, not bad at all. Swivel wrist, hinge. Hinge at the torso, forward, back. Rotation at the waist. Ball coming out to the hip, comes forward, back, out. I think that's not quite as nice as stealth. Cut at the thigh. Double knee. Oh, so close. Rotate it just a little bit. Bing. Swivel at the top of the boot. Hinge at the ankle goes back. Forward. Forward facing pin for rocker. For accessories in the package, he has 2 grip hands. That's to hold this blaster we've seen a few times. Even though there's no trigger finger, there's no trigger guard. So you can kind of get it up in there where it looks like he's about to blast or about to play laser tag. But if you want your Guardsman punching people, you can pull the grip hands out and plug fists, and that's for both sides. Next up, we're going to look at Darkstar. For old time's sake, let's go old school. And now that I'm thinking about it, this is faster. A lot of bare parts in this one. Again, with the very subtle graphics in the back with Crimson Dynamo, Ursa Major, Red Guardian, Darkstar. And like we see with a lot of comic Marvel Legends, when it comes to just a spandex suit, there's quite a bit of reuse here. We've seen this female body on quite a few characters at this point. And it's a good shape. It gets a little thin in places, but there's not high heels. There's boot sculpt down there. Yay, she stands. And she doesn't have double elbows or extra articulation in the torso, but there is movement. Oh, well, I guess the elbow's kind of hindered. It doesn't even reach 90. There's also the magic or power-wielding hands that we've been seeing for quite a while. They work, but you put several females beside each other and they're all essentially doing the same thing. Darkstar, fairly simple design. Black costume, yellow gloves, boots, design on the chest. What it comes down to is the head. And when you first see it, you think, oh, there's not a lot of detail to those eyes, but then you realize the yellow is what sets them off, and you have to really, really look for it. The head sits a little higher than originally planned, and you can see that by the hair not touching the shoulder. It's supposed to be resting on her torso, and I understand why it's higher. That's to give a little bit more range of motion, but I wonder. Just a little bit of rough dremeling to make it a bit deeper, and their hair comes down on the shoulder, and I don't know, that kind of feels more proportional. This is where it was up here. This is what I drilled it down to. And I didn't really do any measuring, so I didn't do it on purpose where the ball fits further up in there and it's still tight, but I can extend it if I want more articulation. So yeah, that's an option. Then you have her headdress and the sculpt of her hair itself, which is always going to get in the way of articulation. I also like the shading they did on blonde hair. It's a yellowish color. It fits with the rest of the design. While the body itself may not be the most dynamic, it still works for her, and the Darkstar head is what sets it off. Articulation, ball at the top of the neck with a hinge. Because of the hair, it's kind of funky to get her to look up, but it can be done. To about right there. Forward, there's some tilt. Swivel, hinge at the shoulder, comes up, rotates around. Hinge and swivel at the elbow, like I already showed, doesn't even come up to 90. That's a shame. Then that rotates. Swivel at the wrist with hinge in and out. Ball mid-torso, not bad hula hoop. Ball coming out to the hip goes, whoa. Forward, back, out. Oh, she's not winning this way. Swivel at the thigh, double knee. She will kick her own ass though. A little bit gummy at the knee too. Hinge at the ankle goes back, goes forward, front facing pin for rocker. For accessories, besides her magic, or well, I guess mutant power hands, those do pull out. She also has 2 fists and 2 grip hands, but nothing to grip. That's all the accessories. I could have done without the grip hands and had some kind of manifestation of her mutant power, or, you know, like some kind of dark power thing. Even if it was reused from some of the older ones with the bubbles and the twirls, having those in black would have been neater than nothing at all. Next up, let's crack open Ironheart. Can you go through the top somehow? No, it looks like the least likely. I'm going back to the side panel for Marvel Legends. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I am completely unfamiliar with Riri, but having the figure in hand, it's very familiar. It's an Iron Man armor, of course, but having it in this shape, size, proportions, it's an interesting contrast to all the other Iron Mans we've gotten. And it looks fantastic. The blue poking out from the red armor itself, the splashes of gold in places, not so much on the legs until you get down to the toes, but then there's also this gray color at the shoulders and the hips. Grayish? Oh, it goes up the neck too. That's kind of cool. And arms smaller than Darkstar. I understand this is an all-new sculpt, but they did fit in double elbows on these thin arms. Holy shit. Double elbows, no pins showing. Same thing down here at the knees. And got the legs going too. Wow. Yeah, it's thin, but it also looks very tough. Heart-like shapes on the back of the hands though. But I do like the blue is on the back, tying the reactor all the way down to here. Makes me kind of wish there was some blue showing somewhere down here too. Not a ton of detail, but there is at the same time. I don't know, you kind of lose it in the red, the panel lines or the edges of armor. They come off as more seams. You can see it back here better with the light. Same thing with the legs. There's a lot of smooth parts, but then, well, it's mostly the reflection of light. It makes it more noticeable, the edges and the seams and such. And I'm looking close. I don't see any swirls and twirls to this red, but you can see like some embedded, is there metallic flake or something? There's a shine to it, but there's also some glitter or something in it. I don't know, just looking at the overall piece, just, yeah, it looks great. The helmet does throw me off a little bit because of this point sticking out forward. It's just not something I associate with iron helmets a lot, but I guess it makes sense aerodynamically. The wind would kind of, and again, I love that they brought the blue up to the eyes and then on the front of the helmet. Is this some kind of emitter or something? Does this shoot? Not recognizing this design, being familiar, haven't read the comics, I have seen just very few pictures. In action figure form, I really, really like this. Articulation, oh, it's a dumbbell joint, but it doesn't have a lot of clearance for movement. Usually the bottom ball would be higher up, more stick, and then going up into here, it'd move a little bit better. So a lot of this movement is on the top ball itself, and even then you can look up a bit, look down. Oh, there's my tilt. Swivel? I say swivel, but all directions. Hinge at the shoulder comes up, rotates around. Bicep on a female body, that's awesome. And I like how it's integrated into the look of the armor. The plates slide around. Already looked at this, but holy moly, that's a lot of double elbow. Swivel at the wrist, hinge in and out. Ball joint torso, not as much forward, it goes the other directions a lot more. Ball coming out to the hip, comes forward, goes back, out, and it still doesn't quite win. Swivel at the thigh, double knee, ankle goes all the way back, most of the way forward. Forward facing pin for rocker. For accessories in the package, she comes with 2 fists. Those pop out. And then you get repulsor blasting hands. Again, there's no hinge at the wrist here. They are in this position. And all good armored characters come with blasts. But these are different from the blasts we got with hologram armor in the same wave and a lot of other Iron Mans. I think the cores, the long parts are the same, just different add-ons on the end. They just plug right in, not a problem at all. But then there are also these smoke effects that wrap around arms or blasts or whatever you want to use them for. I think in a lot of the promo material, they were wrapped around these like this and then plugged into the hands, which is odd to me. For me, it makes a lot more sense as boot blasts. Like she's in flight, and this is kind of the trail left behind. I don't know the physics of all of it, and we are talking about comic books, but I like it better down there. And I really like that they swirl in the opposite direction. That way you get kind of a... But like I just showed, the hologram armor in this same set came with blasts that are essentially the same color as the ones with Riri. So if you want to put these in her hands, that's not a problem either. And you can kind of have that movie flying effect where the hands are stabilizers or help to fly, or you can just have her blasting while flying or hovering or whatever you want. Then besides the helmet, that pops off and you can pop on the Riri unmasked head. I said you could pop it on. Get on there. And as much as I love a good armored up character, this head is so fantastic that it may stay like this. Plus what it does with the proportions of the overall piece, the slightly larger head, not confined inside the helmet, the hair being seen, Yeah, I really like this. Next up, I'm realizing this is really the only major villain in this wave. Let's open up Ultron. You can go through the top if you really, really want to. Ooh, Ultron logo in the background. You have the right to bear arms. Getting it under the lights, that's shiny. Shiny! And as far as I can tell, I mean, unless they snuck something in, I believe that this is a complete 100% new sculpt. I mean, just look at the lines. It's so Ultron-y, with the Ultron-y shoulder pads and the Ultron-y knees and the Ultron-y boots and feet and Ultron-y hands. The extra details that with the lines on the crotch piece. Robot abs. The spikes on the shoulders up here. And then, look at that head. Just its overall proportions, the feel, everything. It walked out of a classic comic. I want to say this silver is paint, right? Again, I don't see the swirls nor the twirls, and it's all just even. It lets the sculpt do the talking. Even this hand that came with it just, oh. Everybody wants to rule the world. The circles on the top of the head, a couple of rivets here and there, nostrils. Why did he need nostrils? Olfactory sensors. The antennas on the side, that big gaping mouth, that, oh man, just everything about this is classic. And we've had a few Ultron attempts over the years, but I feel like we've finally gotten one that, this is it, boys. I don't need another Ultron, unless I'm army building Ultron. Do I need to army build Ultron? One thing that is throwing me off, though, is the inside of the mouth and how plain it comes across. I'm used to some Kirby crackle in there, and yeah, they didn't paint it on. It is black emptiness, but they did take care of that with accessories, so I can't be too mad about it. Look, there's turbines in the bottom of the feet and detail work around the peg holes for a stand or blast effect or whatever. A couple of rivets, seams, that's icing on the cake right there. The shoulder pads are sandwiched between the shoulder and the torso, so they kind of rotate on their own, and that allows the arm to come all the way up, the shoulder to rotate with it, but you can also do some adjustment to it. But on the left side, for some reason, I've got this dent in it. I guess the package was kicking into it, so it's a little bit warped. I may have to hit that with some heat. I mean, it even poked into here. I may just call it the imperfection on Ultron's body. Somebody actually did some damage to him. Going over articulation, look how far he can look up. Looks down, not much tilt, lots of swivel. Hinge at the shoulder comes up, rotates all the way around. Bicep swivel, double elbow comes up to here. Rotation at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Ball joint mid-torso, look at that. And then there's a swivel hidden below the belt. Ball coming out to the hip allows the leg to come up to here. Back, out, still don't have a winner yet. Rotation at the thigh, nicely hidden within that sculpt work. Double knee, I haven't done this yet. Where are we going? I nearly missed this. A swivel at the boot or mid shin, again disguised in that seam line. Hinge at the ankle goes back, forward, front facing pin for rocker. For accessories in the package, Ultron has a grip right hand and a I'm going to rule the world left hand. That pops out and allows for 2 grip hands, even though he doesn't really have anything to hold. And then there's also a set of fists. Finally, like I said, if you're used to some Kirby crackle up there, it comes with this Kirby crackle piece. Translucent orange with the bubbles or whatever painted red. And as far as I can tell, you just stick that in there like this. It's a nice effect, like energy just pouring out of his exhaust port, which would be his mouth. Why'd I turn it around and look at his ass? So Ultron. So classic. How many times have I said that? And then last but not least, Modular Iron Man. Is it weird he comes with no Build-A-Figure piece? And he's the last one that I'm opening? There for a second when I got them out of the package, I thought, oh, they've got the repulsor hands already on and those are stuck, but these actually have hinges on them. Look at this crazy looking toy. It is just so, well, what it reminds me of is Marvel vs. Capcom. Was he in this armor in that or something? I'm picturing a big ass honking gun coming down and but again, I am fairly sure this is 100% new sculpt. There's some smoothness here and there. The faceplate, well, inside just the eyes and around there. Then the gold on the torso, the arms. Then you get to the red parts, and it's not huge amount of detail like some of the other figures we've seen in this wave actually, but there's some seam lines and then there's some grooves going here and there. The grooves coming down in a V shape towards the crotch like an arrow pointing to, hey, here's my junk. Some seam lines here, the boots again cutting across. Again, we see the swirls and the twirls in the red and it looks like the gold is painted on top of that. But there's a difference between the parts that are molded in gold and the parts that are painted gold. It's more of a metallic sheen to the paint job, and then they went with a little bit of marbleized for the parts that are cast in gold. You can even see some metallic flake. And I don't know if this was actually called an arc reactor back in the day. Is that a more modern thing when the movies came along? Was that his unibeam, I think? Was that a... Here's another gold plate that's glued on. Oh, and it's fairly rubbery. Which works out because here, this one goes past the swivel point. So it may have to have a little flex if it hits the top, but I love that it glides over. It doesn't hide it, but it lessens the effect. I talked about the belt a minute ago. Unfortunately, there's a straight cut right across the middle of it that kinda... Perfect world and unlimited funds on Hasbro's side. This could have been one big crotch piece, the red, and then a ball joint for the torso to go down inside so it rotates inside of it, which would be different engineering, but then I just realized this is all new sculpt, so they could have went with something there. But what do I know? I just play with these things. I'm not a fan of the big old seam line running around the faceplate. It makes it stand out a little too much for my comfort, but at the same time, it fits with the overall look. It's modular Iron Man. Going over articulation, what do we got under here? There's a ball at the top with a hinge. Oh, and then there's a ball at the bottom of the neck. It doesn't move much because of the collar coming up, but every little bit helps. Does look up. If you go too far, it tries to pop the head off. Down. With everything working together, you get some tilt. Swivel. Hinge at the shoulder comes up, and there is a stop point. See where the red has a ledge going down to the gold, so you got to kind of force it into the torso and then bring it up all the way around. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow. Oh, not bad. Swivel at the wrist and then hinges in and out. Hinge in the torso goes forward, arcs back. Swivel at the waist. Ball comes out to the hip, comes up, goes back. Okay. Wins the wave. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee, very, very tight. Gets up to about right there. Swivel at the top of the boot. Hinge at the ankle goes back, forward. Front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, like I said, right out of the package, he's got some repulsor blasting hands. And he comes with yet another set of these blue blasts. You can put them in the hands, no problem. And then, like most Iron Man figures, you can also put them in the peg hole in the foot. But if you don't need blasting hands, of course they pop out. And then there's a set of fists. You know what that means? It is time to build Ursa Major, or build a bear if you will. Got the back half, plugs into that. Is there a right and a left? Of course there's a right and a left. Big L down in the peg hole. I'm assuming that means left. Behind the camera strength. If I had thought about it beforehand, I'd probably heat up the leg and then plug it on, but that would be too easy, wouldn't it? Right arm plugs in. The arms are always so much easier, which I understand. All your stability is, of course, in the legs. He can't stand without legs. Where am I going with that? Dumbbell joint. This should just pop on easily. There we go. Then a fur piece that plugs in up on the back. And look at this thing. I think I love it. You ever seen a bear with abs? How much you gotta work out to be a bear with abs? My first thought when this was announced was, oh, another use for the Sasquatch body, but no, this is all new sculpt. If we can get Ursa Major, gives me hope for Grizzly. Was that his name, with the human face popping out through there? Just the fur sculpt running completely over the body. I could show you the whole body. There's fur, there's more fur, more fur. It's cast in this brown color, and then there's shade work in the musculature, but it's pretty heavy in the torso area and the upper hips. Where you attach the leg under that, you can kind of see it go from dark to light. It's not different plastic because on the back, it's not so much of a transition. Well, it may just be a slightly different brown, but it's more apparent right here. And I love this separate fur piece. Yeah, it looks fine like this, but you put this on and it gives them more of a hunch, and then it comes out and kind of covers the shoulders. It transitions better. Look at the claws. Those are awesome. And they're in this black color. Not quite black. It's a dark, dark brown. And then they took a dry brush of a lighter brown and put it over it. So you get kind of a dirty effect, but it also looks like claw. When I first started messing with it, the hand was articulated here, and you can already see where I'm going. That joint sticking up and out of the palm is a bit distracting, but at the same time, you got to make some concessions when it comes to a bodybuilding bear. He's Big Bear. Up at the head, the white of the eyes, the slight yellow of the teeth, the pink in the mouth for the tongue. A little bit scary when you stare at it too long, but what I think gets me is the black around the eyes. Sure, there's shading on the body, but they hit the eyes really, really hard, and it completely works. And then the shiny black of the nose. Yeah. And you can pick out weird things here and there, but like most of the figures in this wave, you stand back a bit, just take in the overall piece, and it's just a good looking figure. It doesn't make sense anatomically, but hey, again, we're talking about comic books. Just go with it. If I had one gripe though, oh man, missed opportunity for an opening and closing jaw. Going over articulation, there was a dumbbell joint sticking out the front, so a little up, some down. Hand looks side to side, which is what I'm looking for because of how broad he is. Rotation there, all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder comes up. If you go too far, you're gonna pop the shoulder out, but it stays in most of the time. Rotates around, you're gonna hit that fur, kind of go around it. It is soft, but the way it's sculpted, it kind of pushes out. Swivel at the bicep, hinge and swivel at the elbow. That also rotates. Swivel at the wrist, hinge out, hinge in. Ball joint mid-torso, and he's got all kinds of movement going around. Ball coming out to the hip, comes forward, not really back. Out, swivel at the thigh, again that's very tight to pop on there. Single knee comes up to 90. Hinge at the ankle goes back, way forward. Forward facing pin for rocker. Here is the whole wave together except for Hologram Iron Man, who is about the same size as Ultron. But we got sizes ranging from 6.5 to a little over 6.5 to 6 foot to the top of the hair. 6.5, 6 and, well, slightly over 6.5, about 6 1/8 to the top of her hair, and then Ursa Major is 7 3/4 to the top of his ears. For me, the big comparison was going to be this, the winter guard we have so far. I've grown to really like this Crimson Dynamo, but I'm not going to say no to a classic version either. Right, Hasbro? But for me to finish up the team, we need a Vanguard. Here's Ursa Major with, again, Crimson Dynamo, but Sasquatch because that seems to be the body they've used the most for Build-A-Figures in the past few years. Here's the Iron Mans of the wave and the 2 comic book versions. It feels like Tony could fit in both of these. And is there a figure over here somewhere? Oh, there it is. Riri looks nicely scaled between Stealth and Modular. Here's Modular compared with a couple of my favorite Iron Mans, the Mezco 1/12 Collective Classic Iron Man and the amazing Yamaguchi Bleeding Edge Iron Man. And while the Stealth uses these 2 same bodies, if you needed a comparison between the red and golds, here you go. Even with different parts, the Guardsman still stands up to the Captain America he shares some parts with, and then here it is with that. Which one is this? It's a hologram head. It's a newer Iron Man. We've had a few Ultrons, but this is the only one I can find in my bin. And then here he is with Jocasta. She is slightly darker silver, but they pair up perfectly. Here he is next to the Dormammu we got recently. Ultron's actually taller. So at the end of the day, great wave. Great wave. Everyone knows I'm a mutant kind of guy. X-Men is my bread and butter when it comes to the Marvel Universe. So this being a Iron Man-centric wave, maybe that was part of the reason I kept pushing it off a little bit because, oh yeah, Iron Man, great. Not in a bad way. Like I said, we all have our personal preferences. But now that I got them all opened, man, I love Stealth. Just how deep and dark the color of the armor is. Modular is semi-classic, semi-modern, depending on how old you are and where you were reading comics. And I guarantee that it being a new mold, it being an Iron Man, we're going to see it in a more duller red and a yellow, not gold. Right? We gotta at some point. That seems like a no-brainer. When it comes to the Vault Guardsman, I read a few comics where he appeared or they appeared, but for me and this wave, this is my handbook entry. This is the one I used to read about as a kid and go, oh, that's a cool looking design, and just at breakfast, cereal. The Riri figure is awesome, articulated, nice sculpt, nice proportions, fits in with the rest, and it makes me want to go read some comics with her in it. Ultron, I will never gripe about getting a classic villain of some kind. It doesn't matter who their arch nemesis are. This is now the Ultron for the shelf, or at least my shelf. I got nothing against hologram armor Iron Man hiding out back there, but it didn't fit the overall picture. All the Iron Mans are cool, but it comes down to Darkstar and Ursa Major for me. Mutants, Winter Guard, villain team that has been slowly building over the years. These are nice additions. So the wave won me over, even though I wasn't looking forward to the Iron Mans. I gotta think that an Iron Man fan would go crazy over this wave. So if you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. I was gonna try to set this up as the women blasting, or the Iron Man's blasting, or doing something, but it's so hard to get them this compact into frame while having action poses. You already saw the hologram Iron Man's hanging out back here, and I think the thing I like the most about him is he does kind of blend into my background He's always lurking.